Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 211 of Hotline League. It is going to be a banger tonight, folks, because Mark Zimmerman has been grouchy all day long. I went to a stream earlier. He's had this blanket over himself. I'm not sure if he's gotten up from his chair, and he's just angry. So extra warning to our callers tonight.
I've been in this chair for probably 12 hours today. Close. Well, not yet, but it will be about 12 hours. The 2 hours I was not in it because I got up around 7 will be from cooking and eating dinner and watching Yu-Gi-Oh! We're on the Dungeon Dice Monsters arc. God, it's so fucking stupid. Dimensionalize the dice. It's probably the worst arc in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Well, are you familiar with all the Yu-Gi-Oh arcs?
No, I think I stopped watching this after this arc because it was so bad.
Great. Well, I'm excited
I've never watched Yu-Gi-Oh!
So unironically, all those 90s shows, like Saturday morning cartoons you grew up that were like anime, but like obviously we're trying to push a product at the same time, like Digimon, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all those. Yu-Gi-Oh is unironically the best one to rewatch as an adult because it's so fucking dumb that I actually think the writers knew what they were doing, whereas a lot of the other ones are just not good.
I'll take your word for it.
You should try them all. Just quick season 1 for all of them. And it's dark. That's true. There's a fucking man-eater bug that someone summons from the Shadow Realm and eats some henchmen. You're like, what the fuck?
Also here from his New Age tech office is James Patterson. How's it going, James?
It's going quite well, thank you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good to have you on. Going well. I am packing frantically because tomorrow I leave to Florida for the week because Full Sail is doing, it's actually my first big trip, but Full Sail University is doing like a big event out there, and they did like a sponsorship thing with me, and I'm coming out and enjoying and participating in it. So I'll be in Florida for this week, which is not where I thought would be the first place I would go after the end of, well, not that we're completely at the end, but as things start to wind down, but that's where I will be this week. Flying out tomorrow after Resin Refresh. But what you been up to lately, Dash?
Not a ton. I mean, I think most of the world at this point knows that I recently got a puppy. So, got her at 8 weeks old, 5-6 weeks ago at this point. So most of my life is fairly dominated by all of her needs at any, given moment. But she's been an absolute joy. That's something I've wanted for a very long time. And so I'm glad I was finally able to make happen. Other than that, I mean, LCS kicking back up, and obviously, with a number of changes between last year and this year that I'm sure maybe some of them we'll get into over the course of the episode. But putting a heavy focus on trying to turn some of that, the sentiment around the product around. And then otherwise, working on some stuff behind the scenes that I can't quite, or I'm not quite ready to share just yet, but hoping to get a couple of personal projects out there in front of people in the near future.
Nice. League of Legends related or otherwise?
Otherwise.
Okay.
So
I'm excited.
OnlyFans when?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
That's
wow.
That's what we're working on.
Yeah. I'm the first person on the broadcast to go for that, and you're breaking new ground. Is that something that you were able to get into your negotiations this year with the because I know obviously it's always like a battle with Riot on the contract stuff. So
yeah, there was a real sticking point this year around OnlyFans.
Gotcha.
Well, and I don't know if this is leaking too much, Dash, but specifically the lower thirds that fly when all of our names pop up. Dash wanted his OnlyFans link in his lower third, so people who drive traffic.
Yeah. I was okay with them removing my Twitter handle. I don't need that there anymore.
Right.
Just let's get people directly to onlyfans.com/James Dash, and we'll start generating some more revenue.
Well, I'm glad you were able to break that on the show. Whenever Mark messaged me yesterday and was like, "Oh, Dash is down to come on the show." And I said, "Oh, is it to talk about broadcast stuff?" And he said, "No, he's got a new project he really wants to promote." And I thought it was going to be something else, but apparently you're launching that. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yes, fantastic.
Mark, you giving away my secrets?
Yes.
That's the only way I work, because I trade in secrets.
Yes.
Classic Mark.
No, okay. Well, good to hear from you. I know we're going to talk about the broadcast stuff, but normally we check in with Mark at the beginning of the show just to find out what he's been watching. Anything besides Yu-Gi-Oh, Mark?
So Pam and Tommy, I forget if I shouted that out. That's really
You
good.
did.
Started watching The Dropout, which was a Wondery podcast that they made into a show about Elizabeth Holmes, the woman who like lied about healthcare shit. It's pretty good. I think I can't quite tell if I like it more or less than the podcast right now, but it's pretty good. It's interesting.
Isn't there a ton of that stuff lately? I feel like there's a ton of shows that are all about people who scam other people, that are popular right now.
Maybe.
Like the Tinder swindler show. I know nothing about it, but people have talked about that as well.
I gotta be honest, the Tinder swindler was like the biggest whiff on like trying to make an alliterative / rhyming title that doesn't actually rhyme.
Yeah,
I
doesn't
didn't
that
watch.
crappy. What I just watched, I just binged real quick the 7 episodes of season 2 of Space Force that they released on Netflix.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know
I
if
need
you
to
guys
watch
have
that.
seen that.
That show was so
Steve,
stupid, but it was very enjoyable the year it came out because I just wanted something very stupid.
that's exactly right. Like that's what you wanted when it came out. But the cast that they have put together there is incredible. I mean, just Steve Carell opposite John Malkovich is
Oh shit! That
Did you not know that?
I knew
What?
Steve Carell was in it. I did not know John Malkovich was in it, and that pairing to me
And
is
now you're a little sold. Okay,
yeah.
yeah. See, so I think you would enjoy it. I definitely would
Just
recommend.
lower your expectations for the humor of it, Mark. I remember I was on your stream this morning when you were talking about how things either need to be really, really stupid or really, really smart for you to enjoy it from a humor perspective. And I hope that this is dumb enough for you because it's pretty dumb.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, I was watching Yu-Gi-Oh and enjoying it. So like that's the level of stupid it needs to reach. I don't know
Yeah.
if it'll get down there.
It can get that stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then Elden
I'll
Ring.
check that out.
Do you want to give an Elden Ring update?
No, I haven't had that chance to play that much. The two other updates I'll give is Demon Hunter Season 2 was dope. And I'm finally watching Odd Taxi. I've only watched one episode of Odd Taxi, and it lived up to the hype. The dialogue in that is just so fucking good. I cannot believe how much they got going in the first episode, and only like the second half of the first episode. Suddenly, I was like, wait, where did all this intrigue and like plot motivation come from? What the fuck? So I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Never
I'm
even
looking
heard
this
of that
up.
one.
It's
Japanese anime television series and manga.
Good to
Interesting.
know.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, Dash, welcome to the show, as I've already said, but I think it's really exciting to have you on because I know that there's been a bunch of changes that have been occurring on the broadcast. Obviously, we now have like a pre-show before the start of the show, which is different from last year where they had brought in during the summer some various shows. You guys have different approaches and different segments. I know High's been doing his kind of like pro stuff. And then even this weekend, I saw there was some griping a little bit about some of the ad placements on Reddit. And so we haven't really had a chance on the show to talk too much about where the broadcast has been going and what it's been up to because TSM and Cloud9 have been taking center stage, let's put it. And so it's nice to have you on since we can have an episode that talks a little bit about that. And beyond that, I'm sure we'll have other calls about TSM and some of the other teams and all that. So folks don't feel like that you need to just make a broadcast. But what while people are starting to put their questions into the Discord, which is discord.gg/Travis, what's it been like for you this year, Dash? And I don't know how much you're working on these changes to the broadcast.
I mean, I'm working as much on the changes as I'd say anyone is this year. I guess we all have to deal with them in different ways, right? But my experience so far this year has been largely positive. I think no secret, like the years of the pandemic were brutal. They were tough. Both on the teams or on the teams, the fans, the broadcast team, and on air talent included. And in some ways, I think it killed a lot of momentum. And so I think a lot of this year, like a stated goal of ours has been to to basically to recapture like the fun around sport, right? And our sport being the LCS. Um, and that's where waiting room, was kind of born. It's a little bit more of an attempt to just tune into what is actually being talked about in the community, as opposed to talking at the community, which I think to a degree the broadcast had become, and arguably needed to be in the years of the pandemic, right? Like, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion to be had. But a lot of the decisions we made during the pandemic were out of pure necessity, and you can't create as open a conversation through Skype like we are right now, than if we were all in the same room, right, sitting around couches. It just changes that dynamic a little bit more. And so the whole idea of the pre-show now is actually to tap into the conversations that are organically happening, and then just applying our touch, our lens, to that conversation, and maybe provide some additional context that only we can provide by being, that little bit closer to the action, or those different storylines, or just having more access. And to do all of that while also making a bunch of technical adjustments, and this is just talking around the pre-show, to get ourselves into game at the top of the hour, or as close to, right? I think that's another, so pillar number one, or one of the big things that we put a focus on this year, is about recapturing the fun of sport and being in tune with what our audience and our community is actively discussing and interested in when it comes to the storylines of the league. Number two has been to actually clean up the broadcast, right? Get back to a place of reliability, where you see a schedule and you say, okay, that game starts at this time. I know that that first game, at the very least, is going to start at near, as close to that time as possible. Obviously, successive games are a bit dependent on how fast the previous game went, but that's been another thing that we've been working on. And then there's been kind of a reshuffling, and I think a reallocation of resources to different areas that I think we've ultimately learned maybe have more value than we originally thought. And that's seen a lot in all of the content pieces that we're doing. Again, if you compare it directly to what we've produced in the last 2 years, the amount of little one-off pieces of content and sketch content that we've already done in the first 3 months is probably, equals that of what we put out in the previous 2 years. A little bit more akin to what we used to do on the years of the countdown with myself, Mark, and Jat. And so I think this year has been a lot about taking the good bits from different eras of the LCS and kind of being like, okay, now how do we bring all of those things back together? So that first pillar being the essence of the LCS, what it was built on, just the fact that we all love the LCS and we want to go watch awesome, League of Legends, pro level League of Legends get played. Then let's add in kind of the structure of, of a polished broadcast. Great. That was like the next era of the LCS. But then let's break down and have a little bit of fun and personality, like the countdown era of the LCS, but let's take all the best pieces of each of those eras and kind of see how we can make them best work together. So it's been a challenge, but it's been fun. I'm personally very excited about it. I feel a lot better about the LCS this year and the work that we're doing than I have in a short while.
I have a question actually kind of for you and for Mark, both of you guys, because this has kind of been the one, I guess I should say, I can definitely relate to. Just, it's so much easier when you can do stuff in person. And obviously you guys were doing stuff in person all last year, but that has been really reinvigorating for me, is just being able to do these interviews in the parking lot out in front. And everybody, I think, that has been watching the stuff on my channel, it's just nice to see a lot of people also appreciate that. But one of the challenges that I've run into in the past couple of weeks is, like, at the start of the year, it was like, all right, we've got Coach LS, it's like the church has arrived and here's his team and blah, blah, blah. And then on the TSM side, you're like, okay, what's going to be happening with these guys? And you want to talk about 100T. These guys are all returning. And obviously that's been up and down. So it's been a bit of a challenge, because I feel like there were these major, the JoJo Pion and EG stuff, which also has, I feel like, in some ways stalled out. So I guess Mark and Dash, like, how are you guys, whenever you're in these story meetings and you're figuring stuff out, or you're trying to figure stuff out for the even just on the day of and after the games. Like, are you frustrated at all that a lot of these storylines have stalled out? Do you feel like there's a bunch of others that you guys are able to tap into? How have you been approaching all this?
I just pull random stats out of my ass.
Okay.
That's really how I just do my job. No, to answer it seriously, I mean that's part of the reason I was frustrated with like the TSM situation, the C9 situation, where like you have these narratives and you're building them, and like assuming everything goes to chalk, you build up C9 with their interesting draft and these strategies heading into playoffs and best of fives, going up against TL, going up against the Zoomers, going up against TSM's LDL prospecting, and you get to see all these clashes that all culminate in a nice climax narratively of like whatever happens. But like when it gets cut short, you don't have anything to hold on to, and that's why it was frustrating to not be given reasoning. And then like even if we as broadcasters know some of what's going on behind the scenes, if it's not public, we're not really a news agency or anything. And then like what do we have to tell a story with anymore? It's like, don't worry guys, C9's still good. And that's ultimately like what we ended up running with, but that didn't give any sort of resolution to this big blow up that happened. And I think those sorts of things are unfortunately frustrating. But at the end of the day, it's about the players. And so as long as you're, I think, telling the players' stories correctly, you're doing an okay job.
Yeah. I agree with pretty much everything that Mark just said. And funnily enough, even though he was joking about, sometimes pulling a random stat, like that can be the end to a story. Funnily enough, just like as a weird, side note on, how broadcasts are run or even produced. It's like sometimes we are just in a meeting and a stats person or Jat or Mark will be like, I was looking at our stats, database just last night and I saw this. How funny is it? Whoa, interesting. Like, let's run with that. What does that mean? How can we explore that? Sometimes it
Mhm.
can be indicative of a storyline. How has it been to ultimately deal with well, what's interesting is this year I think we're running into some interesting issues, and this is where maybe we'll get again with some takes and some questions from viewers. But like our turnaround times between games are some of the fastest they've ever been, and yet even still, the perception is that it takes us forever to get from game to game. So technical constraints is one conversation to have around just simply how much time we have to tell narratives and get points across. Funnily enough, I think it was Mark. Were you on the day with Parth? No, right? It was just Mark. It was just Emily and
Yeah.
Raz. And I saw Raz in the chat earlier, so maybe he can confirm. But when Parth was on, after we did a segment, he literally turned to us and he goes, "Oh my god, that goes by so much faster when you're on camera than when you're watching it." And I was like, thank you. We just need every fan to sit on the analyst desk and do a segment for them to then realize really how short 5 or 6 minutes is, because that's all you ever actually see the analyst at. Like, well, we changed the format a bit this weekend, but that was actually
But
to make typically you would see the analyst desk for almost no longer than 6 minutes, and that's like a long segment. And so it's always baffling to me that people are like, oh my god, they've been on forever. But definitely, so like the technical constraints that we're dealing with are one thing to fight against in the sense of accurately telling narratives and like doing them justice. And then to Mark's other point, like I think we're reconciling with a lot of ecosystem issues as again we just reintroduce ourselves back out of quarantine and into the LCS world on like how information needs to be or what information rather maybe is the better way to phrase it needs to be provided when decisions are made. And for us, unfortunately, we don't have control over that. So really, we're just we have to do the best possible, job we can do with the information that we have. But to Mark's point, sometimes that means not revealing information because it's not our place to do it. In which case, we actually have to just try and find the next most interesting thing, and try and make that the focus until a team or a player decide or a media outlet decides to bring something else into the light. It's been very interesting to deal with this year. But another thing I will say on all of this is that I actually think it was a smart move. Um, we've kind of landed on some more specified roles and sets of people this year. There was a lot of trying things out last year. And so like having High, for example, specialize on the broadcast in a few things, very much from like the pro angle, I think unlocks us in a certain way to tell narratives that maybe we didn't have a methodology to do so before. Likewise, having Raz, Emily, myself, Mark, and Jat be essentially the core analyst desk itself gives us the number of reps that we need throughout the year to develop synergy and personality as a group, which is something we didn't have necessarily in the past because we just changed the amalgamation of the desk every single day, which was a good experiment and we learned a lot, but I don't think was ultimately conducive to the best storytelling methods. I'm
Quick,
going to keep rambling until
no,
you
no.
tell
Well,
me.
I was gonna say, quick question. About because I just to acknowledge what you were just saying. I do think that the desk is usually at its best when you guys have a solid lineup of people because you can build in that chemistry rather than like musical chairs. I'm sure I've hosted enough stuff before where like whenever like it is really nice to do this show with Mark because after 211 episodes, I know whenever I could tell when he's getting bored with something or we need to move on or something else is happening or he's going to have like a big take. Whereas whenever I used to do State of League and it was just me and 3 random pros every week, it's just like really, really difficult. On the topic though of like the turnaround time, do you think that fans are getting frustrated with how long the desk takes, or do you think they're getting frustrated with how long the in between games takes? Because obviously, like, there's the 3 minutes where we're watching some Champions Queue thing while we're waiting for an interview to come with La Tigris, and there's ad time and there's all that stuff. So I don't know if that. Obviously, I don't time this stuff, so I don't know if that part, like the total time between games, is long right now, and particularly because of COVID stuff, and like the analyst desk stuff is shorter, or yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of do this. I'm going to YouTube because I'm gonna pull up a VOD.
Well, while you do some math, I can say at least I heard some turnaround times from this weekend. We're hitting 17 minutes, which is pretty quick, and I'm sure Dash will check a couple. But like for example, last summer when it was kind of bad and people were complaining about it, it was around 22. So we shaved off about 5 minutes. And to the point about the analyst desk versus this versus that, I feel like no matter what, it's about engagement. And so last split, there were times people were like bitching about the analyst desk being so boring, and it was like we were on for 6 of that 24 minutes, 22 minutes. It's like obviously we're not what's boring people when we take up a fourth to a third of the time that you see. It was like it's like getting off casters into the interview faster, getting from the interview into this faster, getting less ads where there's like 30-second ads before the 3-minute ads into like a desk read, because sometimes part of the thing that cramps the analyst desk too is like sponsored segments where Dash has to read about the Grubhub thing, and that cuts into our time. And
hey, we love the
fans are
Grubhub
sitting
thing,
through.
Mark. Okay, it's not a has to. I love it when Dash does that. He should talk about Grubhub more often.
No, I'm saying it's the best part of the analyst desk, but no, it's still a part of the time.
Yes.
That fans are it all gets kind of lumped together in their mind as the between time game. And then people aren't being nuanced when they talk about this. They just say the analyst desk is boring. What they're really saying is like the turnaround time combined with the analyst desk combined with all these other factors is feeling slow. But I think if you can make engaging content and you keep it short and snappy, like it's people will come around, and perception always lags behind reality in like public consciousness.
Yeah. Dash, I don't know if you're still doing math, but feel free.
I didn't know if he was.
No, all good. I just checked the transition time on Sunday from game 1 to game 2 was 19 minutes, which you could argue is a little slower than we would have wanted. I'm watching game 2 end right now.
Yeah, I mean, so we typically aim. I mean, I don't know if this is getting too much into behind the scenes stuff, but we typically aim for 17 minutes. And previously that would be around, was it 3.5 for ads? Right? I think it is. And then there's
17 and a half minutes between games 2 and 3. And our average this weekend, I do believe, was kind of around that. But to Mark's point, like, yeah, when you start to break down, first of all, okay, so 17 and a half minutes. Let's get super granular. If people want to know, let's tell them how it goes, right?
This is how it goes.
So game ends. Cameras got to pull out from there, show a little bit of celebration. Casters are doing
win moment.
They're doing their wrap up over the win moment. Already 30, 45 seconds has passed at this point. They're cutting back down to watch the bow because casters have to stay talking until we get them come out, what would normally be the high five line, do that, bow. Okay, now casters are throwing in the way we did it this weekend. Casters throw it to commercial. So you now have a 3-minute commercial block. So you've probably taken 2 minutes. You're now doing 3 minutes to bring you to 5 minutes. You're coming back out of a commercial into an interview, which is probably going to be anywhere from 1.5 to 3.5 minutes, depending on the size of the interview and the size of the post game segment that we have. So let's go with a middle ground there, 2.5. That brings us to 7.5 minutes. Then you throw it to a post game, which is supposed to be roughly 5 minutes. That brings you to 12.5. And then the way we did it this weekend is we just transitioned into our pregame in the same segment instead of throwing to a break. But let's say you do another 4 minutes there, right? And boom, all of a sudden you're butting up, or 5 minutes, and now you're butting up against that 17-minute mark. And so that's what you as a viewer sees. Now, what you have to understand is happening behind the scenes, right, is game ends, all of those players now have to pack up and put away their equipment, and they have to do it in a COVID safe way. Yes, that slows it down a little bit, but honestly, not that much.
Not anymore.
Transition times wouldn't be that much faster without COVID, if we're being entirely honest with you. But they got to pack up all their stuff, get it off the stage. The new set of teams has to bring all their stuff on stage, plug it all in. They have to then go into practice games individually and check all their settings, okay, all of that with referees, to make sure that we've done, our due diligence around competitive integrity. Then circle back up as a team before going into champion select. And I think it's perfectly reasonable that a pregame, essentially, for teams themselves, have 15 minutes, to step on stage, set up, and get ready for their match. So kind of
you
from
can't
both
go much further than
perspectives,
17. You can't go that much below 17 minutes.
not much, right? And then again, you put all of that against the idea that the league has to make money. And there's a harsh world reality for everybody, which is that it's awesome that we all get to watch the LCS for free on Twitch, but in order for the product to persist, it cannot just be a black hole of money,
So I already see some people in the chat who are asking kind of follow-up questions to this stuff. So far, Mark has only pulled about 4 people into the waiting room. So rather than doing a thing where I just read all of your questions into the thing, and let's get some callers in here and we can talk about the stuff, among other things on the show. Don't worry, it's not going to be an all broadcast. It's not going to be
topics.
Dash doing the run of show with an Excel sheet for every.
It's
call.
kind of already my job on weekends.
Well,
it's just wrangle everybody around in the show anyway. So
yeah. So I have some regular people in the waiting room for regular topics, but also 1 or 2 broadcast ones. But I think we're definitely down to look for more. So I'll keep an eye out, and we'll start grabbing callers in a second. The one thing I'll tack on to what everything Dash was just saying is even those 5 minutes and 4 minute chunks that he's talking about for pregame and postgame, oftentimes we'll have a SOT in there from a player talking. SOT meaning one of those videos of a player. Those will take anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. We'll often have a read of some kind, like player of the game, or the Grubhub thing, or
the high
MasterCard.
pro corner.
Yeah, there's always some. Oftentimes there is some obligation in there as well, and so the actual analysts, how much we get to talk in a segment is probably around 6 minutes, and then you're balancing that between 3 analysts. So that, depending on what the segment is, we'll talk about that much. And that's why I think people like Parth, when they finally get on the desk and experience it, they're like, wow, it's not 17 minutes of the analyst desk droning on. It's really, I spoke 6 sentences. Were they the punchiest, best 6 sentences I could give? It's I hope so. And I think that's the struggle of being a good analyst.
It must be fun for you guys
desk
to go out and have the community be like, the analyst desk, they're just on this the entire time. And you guys are like, we literally talk for 5 minutes, and now we won't talk for another 5 minutes for an hour.
And we're aware of the turnaround times too. So we don't want to talk longer than we have to, So if it ever goes longer than that, it's usually not because we're just give us more time. It's usually like there's a delay on stage, and like we don't announce every delay on stage to like spook fans out. So like a minute or 2 minute delays often don't get announced. We just go longer or whatever.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of those little things
Or
too.
Dash is just trying to rein Raz in, and he keeps going and going and going.
Honestly, sometimes like if we a lot of times we could probably hit 16 and a half, and we hit 17 and a half because Raz is talking.
I hope he's still in the Twitch chat.
I love Raz. So
I mean, I've seen there was one point in time this weekend where you guys had made an academy point, and then you moved on to C9, and you guys were talking about C9, and then Raz is like, "But I want to go back to academy and talk about C9 academy or something." I forget what it was, and you guys were like, "Okay, I guess here we go." There we go. Raz says I had to run from the kitchen to fight against these lies. Here we go.
Yo, I said it on broadcast this weekend. I'm a proud resident of Raz Nation. Okay.
Yeah. In the I just want to let you guys know. Listen, there's something that happens behind the scenes of Hotline League every week, and that's Mark's battle in the Discord. Somebody in the Discord was talking Elden Ring. And and Mark is now in the chat cussing him out. So
no, see, he said Elden Ring is like not even the best FromSoft game or best open world game, and then he put a second take about the LCS behind it, and I said, "Fuck that bait, Lamau," because he's trying to bait me with the Elden Ring take. So I wasn't cussing him out. I was saying like, "Good try, but it's not going to work to this guy."
Nice. Okay, well, let's finally take a call because we've been talking for over half an hour, so it's time. Mark is off to go grab our first caller of the night. The best cliches: Sandy Toes, Rotate or AFK, Rice. Thank you for gifting a sub. Pokem, Zoom Ball, to Monster gifted 10 subs. Very generous of you. Thank you. And McGreg's LOL Globus, the Great Clockworm, and Nemsic at 55 months. Holy moly. Okay. Lord-Audie is here. Wow, that clap was very loud. Lord-Audie, welcome to the show. Remind everyone where you're calling from, because I believe you've been on previously.
Yes, I've been calling from Queens, New York.
Queens, New York, right. Okay, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Given that Dash is on the show and I have production take is that teams should be able to provide their own translators for their import players. It seems kind of silly by now that every time that Cloud9 wins, Fudge and Braver has to show up and just do the interview every single time. And we don't hear from Berserker, we don't hear from Summit, we don't hear from Winsome. I will actually include TSM on this conversation, but they've been sucking so hard that they haven't been able to just...
They got 2 interviews.
They got 2 interviews, and Shenyi wasn't one of them. Kaido, we'll miss him, so who knows? But, so we have a variety of, like, import players. I don't know, like, Jose speaks English very well. Tukui seems to speak English very well, but I don't know if they want to accommodate French for him. But I feel that, internationally, we have translated interviews. It happens, for the English broadcast. I don't know if there's a reason why LCS cannot accommodate for that, but I think maybe it's adding put to the 17 minutes, having a translator there, but, it will be, something to talk about.
Audie, a couple of questions. Do you have, like, a hype crowd behind you? I hear somebody in the background laughing.
Yeah, that is my wife right here that introduced me to League of Legends, and now I'm a victim of it.
Oh, wow. So wait, she introduced you to League of Legends? That's awesome. I normally hear it the other way around, so I'm happy to hear that there's men that are getting introduced to it now from their wives. Okay, the other question I have for you is, do you think that the obligation is on the broadcast or the teams?
Well, at least on my take is on the teams. I feel that they already should have those part of their staff. So I don't know if it is on the onus of the production to have someone to speak that translates Korean, but I would like to think that Cloud9 has someone on their staff doing that work for them. So I don't know if it will be too hard for them to bring that person in as part of their team to just be able to just accommodate for that interview.
Well, I had just to your point, I did an interview with Winsome that hasn't gone up yet where August, who's one of the I think it's his positional coach, helped do the interview. I don't know if August's comfortable doing that on stage, like, because that's kind of the issue you sometimes run into is like even I'll have translators that are part of teams that will not necessarily be like broadcast translators, and they'll sometimes even be nervous to appear on screen with me, like when mine is obviously not live. So I think that's kind of part of the challenge. But yes, so let me ask the two broadcast people right now if they think it's on the team or the broadcast to provide the translators. I'm curious to see where we find the answer.
Well, so that's the part of it that I have trouble with. I don't actually know if I have a definitive stance on who it should be. And I'll walk you through my logic. Because I think your point is super valid, Travis. The idea that like if I'm on the team side, if I try and put myself on the team side, my concern is getting, if I was going to invest in a translator, my concern would be getting a translator who is best suited to helping the team do and the player that they're translating for do everything that they need to do beyond, more than just the scope of the broadcast, right? Like we're talking in practice, in going about maybe daily life and things like that. And so therefore the whole broadcast, like I have worked with translators. I've done interviews with translators who were team translators, but who were not broadcast, translators and didn't really know what to do when they were on camera. And that's been a struggle. By the same token, I can see an argument that it is in importing a player, a team is essentially taking on the responsibility of that player's brand and that player's accessibility to the fans, right? And so providing that bridge, which would be the translator between the player and the fans, even though it may be also, by the mechanism of the broadcast, I think that there might be some obligation there. So I can kind of see an argument both ways. I first, though, just wanted to like commiserate with the point because I'm like, I think both Mark and I are 1,000% on your side when it comes to the take itself. It sucks that we have not had a live interview with Summit or Berserker as the two probably biggest examples, but we could look at many others as well. Obviously, there is the decision that has been made is made taking a lot of factors into account. Including the player's comfortability given the options available. And we're not going to make a player do something that they're not comfortable doing. But where I'm at least proud of some of our problem solving, for example, is we have found a way to talk to those players, just not in a live setting. So we've actually had, if you saw the MasterCard Player of the Week,
Yeah.
see, I can't even say, I could have just Player of the Week. I can't even not say the sponsor name. If you saw the Player of the Week interview between Gabby and Summit for this last week, it was a recorded interview in which we were able to ask him the questions, translate them, and let him respond, and then translate subtitles with time before the broadcast. And like that was an effective way to at least get to hear from him individually without having to do it live. So we're building out our tool set to be able to, I think, lessen the crappy feeling that comes along with the situation that you're bringing up. But I don't think that excuses the situation. And so I do think it's something that needs to be figured out. I don't really care if it's the broadcast or the teams, but we do need to find translators so that we can talk to these players.
A couple quick things in chat. Was Receptive Block says Shocks learn 5 languages. Why can't Dash?
Well, so okay, I was about to say there's also this may be coming a week earlier than expected, but I guess Mark and I can spill the beans on a new LCS sponsorship with Duolingo.
Okay,
in which he and I are going to be run through 8-hour courses, 4 days a week.
Nice.
To each become trilingual.
Mark's got a lot on his plate these days.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and then I just wanted to shout out what Raz was saying here, which is that there's a difference between broadcast interviews where you feel confident with both languages versus team translators that are meant for internal. And he said this important thing, which I've heard before: the community will rip apart translators that don't nail it perfectly. So if a team translator doesn't want to put their neck out on the line, it's completely understandable. I've heard that time and time again.
Well, I've seen that. Just anytime an interview is wrong, there's a Reddit thread about like they misquoted.
Well, I've heard specifically it goes to Korea, and sometimes like the LCK community will be very upset about it, or it'll end up on their boards and stuff. Sorry. Anyway, continue, Mark.
So what I was just gonna throw in there too is like there's also logistical reasons like why you wouldn't hire a translator. I apologize if I said this, but just like on a given day, they might not work. Even if you hire them and bring them on, like if no team with a Korean wins that we want to interview, there's a high chance that actually happens. Like there's days where like C9 drops a game, TL wins, but like they all speak English, and then you can have a situation where there's actually no one for that translator to do anything that day. And if you're paying someone a full day rate to show up, even if you do one interview, it's like legitimately, if you're being fair and like you actually put yourself in the position of a businessman or a business person, like, I just paid $1,000 for 2 minutes of interview time. Like that's just hard to justify as an actual cost. And I understand for fans that it's like that doesn't feel fucking good, but like it is something where like you would have to find ways to get value out of a hire like that if you're going to do a hire like that. And like Dash said, and Raz was talking about, it's also not that easy to find someone who wants to be on camera and do this stuff and understand the game at a high enough level that like when Summit goes into his laning phase and starts explaining his micro, someone can keep up about like, oh yeah, well, as long as you buffer the JCE to knock back the Renekton on his double dash, like who you start getting a pretty small pool of people who are going to be available and want to do this and like all this stuff. And so it's actually a harder job to hire for than you think, which causes higher pay rates, which causes higher bottlenecks into justifying the costs. And it's actually a frustrating situation that the people who end up losing out are actually just the fans.
Everything that you guys just said is true, but I kind of don't give a shit. Because here's my take, which is
I'm with you.
Last year, we had a bunch of the team owners come out and be like, lift the import rule. Everyone can be fans of any player from any region. And like, none of this, it's all fine. And like North America has just embraced this idea of like, we're going to import from everywhere. And then I can't have the fucking answer then afterwards be like, yeah, but it's very difficult to have translators and like logistics. Don't fucking tell me that you're fine with investing in talent from other regions and fans can become fans of these people. And then tell me also, oh, sorry, it's just too hard to get a fucking interview translated on the broadcast.
My perspective was from Riot, but for teams, there's a lot of coaches who do interviews who are multilingual, and I think fans would be understanding of like a coach talking with their player kind of thing. I think you could push that.
Dodo's translated before for folks, if that's what you're getting at.
Well, I just mean there's like a lot of coaches who like, like Dodo and, like a lot of people. I don't know if I couldn't actually hear who you just said, but like, my point is teams also are incentivized to get their players out there. The whole ecosystem is, of course, but teams in particular, if you're trying to build Summit's brand as C9, you would think that you want to get Summit in front of the cameras to do that. So you would think that they would have someone on their staff who could potentially do it, even though if the translating is not their full-time job. They're also like, you can do it for 4 minutes once a week in a post-game interview kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if they bother to make them Twitter accounts, I guess they should be bothered to actually translate for their interviews. I guess that's fair for me.
Yeah.
Good. I basically, to put a capper on this, if I had it my way, I would probably say the teams should have translators for the people that they're spending the money to import into a league and to invest into those personalities that they're building around. And they should get people who are good enough to represent those people on a live broadcast. But that's just James as a fan and as a person kind of speaking. That would be my hope. I completely am with you. I would love to be hearing from more of these players more often.
Dash decries the selfishness of team owners. Okay, Lord-Audie, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Well, shout out to my wife that introduced me to League of Legends, and shout outs to Game Field and Alienware and the staff. Good production.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. All right, let's talk about Alienware. Speaking of Alienware, we love Alienware. Alienware's got some really awesome stuff that they've been releasing. In fact, I need to hook Mark up because I just recently got their new headset, and so he can switch over, give that a try, and see how he feels about it.
I already have a good dent going with this one.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we'll figure it out. You could try this one and see what you think of it. But it is very, very nice, and I just got it in the mail actually this week. So go check that out. They've got new mice as well that are available. Alienware.com/Travis. You could go there and click up on the top banner to get into all their awesome gear. But right now, I'm using the Alienware Aurora R13, which is fantastic. There's been a couple people recently, and I know I already mentioned this, but I never want to stop giving shout-outs to the people who tweet at me and say they got some cool Alienware stuff. Chief Xandopus, I believe is his name, their name, has said previously, or has subbed previously on the show, and I saw it tweeted about 23 hours ago. Feels good to have everything set up. Thanks again, Travis Gafford, for the Alienware hookup. And they have a wonderful Aurora sitting there, as well as some cool gear, and I'm seeing a Team Liquid chair. So this is up on Twitter. But thank you to everybody who always tweets at me about this stuff, because it's one thing for folks to see. Obviously, when you click alienware.com/Travis, they see you came in and looked at their stuff. But it's another thing when you make the purchase and you tweet about it and let them know. So thank you to everybody who's been doing that. Thank you so much to Alienware. Check out their new peripherals. Again, we'll get Mark the new headset, and maybe at some point in time he'll be sporting that on screen. But thank you to Mark. Mark will definitely do it. Anyway, thanks to Alienware for sponsoring the show, and we love your support. Go check out the description if you're on YouTube, and alienware.com/Travis if you're not. Okay, off to the next caller. Mark is already on his way. Thank you to... see, there's been some more folks. Mr. Emerson, Iron Scrub Vaults for 2 years, and Ectelion, thank you. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody back there. Shildeezy, Epsilon, Darth Zombie, and yep, we got everybody. So thank you everybody for the subs. Mark will be back here any second with our next caller, and then I'm off. By the way, again, I mentioned this at the start, but if anybody's at Full Sail University this week for the Hall of Fame, I believe is the name of the event, please come say hi to me, because it's my first time that I'm going to be going to like an event like this in 2 years, and so I'd love to say hello.
Travis doesn't want to be lonely.
I mean, it's true. It's I don't know too many people that are there, so this will be nice to just go out and say hi to folks. Hello, Bluejay is here. Bluejay, where are you calling from?
Hello, calling from Ontario.
Ontario, Canada. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that Jensen, if Jensen is considering a return to pro play, he should avoid TSM like the plague, unless he's getting Reggie's house, which, in other words, means if he's making absolute bank.
What is absolute bank? I'm curious. Bluejay.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
You've seen some of the reports. Like, is it like? Are you talking about perks money here?
$5 million a year.
$5 million a year?
Yeah.
Travis, you are the one that knows all this stuff because you can make all those videos and you can never say exactly how much players make. So,
well, I don't know the individual.
Okay,
I don't know the individual players, just sort of what the teams are spending. But I mean,
my point is, I know far less than you do. Is my point.
Yeah. We know that Perks was making $3 million a year, Sword Art or something. So, what do you want to say? $3 million a year, or do you want to go above that?
3 mil sounds pretty damn good.
Okay.
One or two of Reggie's car or his house or some degree of his non-liquid assets.
Yes.
Maybe we just need to figure out how much Reggie's house is worth.
Yes.
I agree.
Dash, you agree?
I agree. I think I guess the only reason I could see Jensen coming back to... Here's the thing. You don't come back to this TSM in their current form and ultimately look that much better, I don't think. Like, even if the team does get better, like, they're already in such a hole, I'm not really sure that does for Jensen's career what Jensen needs, if that makes sense.
100% agree.
Like, I think part of Jensen's issue already is probably his valuation. I don't actually know. I don't know what any of the players make, but I have a feeling that he's a very expensive player, and he's probably in some way going to have to devalue himself to end up on TSM, is just my speculation. And then
Andy said he'd spend whatever it took.
If they throw, and that's why I threw out a ridiculous number like $5 million, because for me it would almost have to be a money play. It's basically like, hey, I'm going to do this because I'm going to make bank off of it. but all while understanding that we're not climbing into playoff contention. We might make some marginal improvements, and maybe if I pop off so ridiculously individually, I can make a case for someone else to buy me out for summer and or for TSM to rebuild around me. Like that's the only angle I could possibly see for Jensen justifying a move to TSM. Where otherwise I actually just see him being damaged in some sense by it, aside from making money.
There's also a real opportunity cost too, where if TSM comes to you first, you know, that and you accept, you can't go to another team then, and to Dash's point, actually make a good run in summer. Like I don't know exactly what team. Like I don't think EG is going to do it. I don't think any of the other top teams are realistically going to do it. So it's not like I really think he's holding out for anything. But like in theory, you know, there's an opportunity cost to sign with TSM, who feels like there's no
100
hope.
T.
And 100 Thieves.
Oh man, you got to that before me. God damn it.
I was gonna say Abba has been bad. He was almost the topic of the blame game again. I'm just like sick of doing him. I think I've done him twice already this year. But I don't know. I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think so either.
But I think like, you know, maybe TSM can turn around Huni, Spica, Tactical, Jensen, and like an upgrade at support, and suddenly you have like a little bit of a discount TL going, right?
Well, that's okay. This was my point. Or this was going to be my point to Dash and Bluejay. Like, what happens if you go to Jensen and they say, "Hey, we're going to get you like Ignar, or somebody who's a good support"? Because like, as much as TSM fans wanted to ride Tactical, I don't think he's a terrible ADC. And last year, Spica and Huni were considered good players on TSM. People were happy to have them there. And so, if you're in a world where Jensen presumably would be an upgrade from the PoE of last year. I guess you can have conversations. Like, I think it's hard to imagine that people would argue that Tactical this year is worse than lost last year, even though I know that now that I've said that, there's going to be 3 shitty comments on my YouTube video about it. Like, and then you just get somebody like, it's not like Sword Art was this god last year. So in order to get something that looks like last year's TSM or maybe even better, I don't feel like it takes that much. It takes a support and Jensen, and then you're back to basically where you were last year or better.
Well, but so you get Jensen, you get Ignar. Where does the team place in spring? So I still don't think they climb to 6th. I doubt it. I mean, maybe if they made the move this week, right? Like, therefore, you know, they still have what would that be, like 7 or 8 8 games to work with. I still don't think they make playoffs. So you're essentially then TSM as an organization is making the case to Jensen that him plus Ignar, along with the 3 they already have, is a Worlds-bound team. Because Jensen doesn't want to play on a team that's not going to Worlds. And so not only do you have to sell him on, like, you have to sell him on the personal value of joining a dumpster fire of a team and a possibility of turning it around, but then you also have to sell him on the giant uptick that they're going to have, or the progress they're going to make in summer to be a top 3 LCS team and actually contend at Worlds. Because I can't imagine Jensen being the kind of player who wants to come back and not, you know, make it to Worlds, let alone make it out of groups or beyond, you know.
Can I just say, I appreciate Dash not in a hosting role sometimes, because just, you know, can you imagine if this was like a broadcast, like on the LCS, where Dash is like, do you really think Jensen's going to join that dumpster fire of an organization? No fucking way.
Okay. Good. Well said, Mark. It's nice to hear some more opinions out of Dash. But I'm going to disagree. I think you guys are crazy because, I agree that this is a huge risk for Jensen, and I don't even think that there's like a very high chance of them making Worlds. But a couple things here. 1, 3rd for Worlds right now feels wide open. I don't feel like you can look at the league right now and say like, oh yeah, that 3rd spot is unlocked. Like, you have to really surpass 100 Thieves or EG or Dignitas or FlyQuest or something to get in there.
That's a fair point.
So I think I don't think it's that crazy to say build a better TSM than yesteryear and you could make it to Worlds this year. The other thing is, I know we said like 3 million. I think it's not that crazy to imagine that Jensen could get like $1 million out of TSM. And guys, $1 million is a lot of fucking dollars. So like, just take the money and like play for at most like the worst case scenario here is like, okay, worst case scenario is you get 10th again and like it's a disaster. But a more moderate case scenario is you come in, people are like, okay, well the team was a dumpster fire. People will say Jensen didn't look that good because that's what people say when you're on not a great team. You probably placed somewhere in the middle of the standings, and you just collected $1 million for working 4 months, and you didn't go to Worlds. I don't think
But that
that's
could ruin your career, though.
No,
Like,
you know what else could ruin your career, Bluejay? Just sitting on the sidelines and not doing anything, right? Like
not with
everyone
champions
thought
queue
Sneaky was going to come
existing
back, and
Well,
Sneaky
no,
never came back.
Yeah, no, Travis does have a good point, right? Like there's risk in both directions, right? And absolutely fading into irrelevancy and just not staying front of mind for owners. While other younger players start to get noticed, you might find it incredibly hard to, make your return to the LCS. So there definitely is risk in Jensen staying off. But I think, Travis, the other part of this argument that we're not taking into account is because we're only looking at from the TSM perspective. There are 9 other teams, right? And so it's like the only angle we're arguing right now, though, is whether or not it's worth it or valuable for Jensen to go to TSM. And maybe it is more valuable if that's the only team that expresses interest in him.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one I can think of is
maybe
100 T.
I could see 100 Thieves. I could see Dignitas, for example.
They're
not that I think Blue
they're
is
so
performing
budget.
super poorly, but
they're not going to spend like Jensen. In my opinion, should not take less than like maybe if he's just really wanting to come back, he should like take 700.
750. Yeah,
but I don't even see like fucking Dignitas is probably spending like $1 million on that roster. They're going to double their budget to bring in.
Well, so what I was going to say on that point is like, you're talking about the opportunity cost of not signing a team. I think that opportunity cost is only as whatever you set your fucking price point at. Because next year, if Jensen says, hey, Immortals, I'll play for you at 300,000, they're going to sign him. Like, no matter what Jensen can get on a team if he wants, it's just like, whether it's worth it financially for him or if he thinks he can get more money, like I can understand not wanting. I don't think he should do that, but I'm just saying like there's a place in the league as long as Jensen is willing to like cut himself out at the knees as much as he wants to. But like that Dig angle is one where like, I don't think he would do that. Like if Dig came to him, like do you think he would rather go to Dig than TSM, even though Dig's a better roster, and take like a slightly lower pay rate to play for a better team, or do you think you'd rather join TSM at a higher pay rate?
I do love that it is insane that in basically a 2-month period we've now hit the point with TSM where it's like, well, would you pick Dignitas or would you pick TSM to join? Holy shit, guys.
I mean, again, this is probably some of my personal bias showing though too, is like I think I would go with Dignitas, but
you're a big Dig
part
fan,
because
Dash?
I think there's more exciting stuff happening over there. My concern is obviously still the top line for Dig, right? And so that's honestly the thing that I think would turn Jensen off the most is whereas like the case we make for TSM here is not just a Jensen change, but a support change as well. Makes it more palatable for him because Spica, very solid. We know that Huni in his best form is solid. Again, I think there are questions to be asked about what's the lifespan of his career at this point. But like there's probably a more solid core on TSM to a degree. I just think that they're more exciting prospects on Dignitas, and something's clearly working over there. So I would be immediately more intrigued by what's working at Dignitas versus again jumping into something that just seems to have no direction in the TSM camp.
I think it also matters how long he intends on playing for, because if he doesn't intend on wanting to go back to pro for a long time, then I'm totally with Travis. Take the money and run. But if you want to have a much longer career, which I don't know whether he does or not, I think going to a 10th place team is really dangerous. And I might also add that, like, I know we want to look at MVP Spica, but he has not been MVP Spica. And yes, there's a lot of fair reasons as to maybe why he's not. Like he's mentioned, there's a lot of frustrations and whatnot that he has to deal with that he maybe didn't have to last year. But we are not seeing the same Spica. And so I don't think that we can just say, oh, he's got an MVP jungler that he can join, because we haven't seen it at all in the last 2 months or whatever it's
The major counter to that point would just be that putting Jensen in the mid lane would immediately allow Spica to play more like the MVP jungler that he once was.
I hope so. But I just say it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, I don't think you.
Absolutely.
In my mind, you look at tactical, you look at Spica, you look at Huni, and you say, what were these guys playing like last year? Because that's what their actual potential is, and I think the circumstances are. There's a good chance the circumstances what's actually bringing their level down. Yeah, on the dig side, I just don't see them ever. I don't see Jensen coming down far enough and dig coming up high enough for them to meet. That's the thing.
I don't think Jensen's coming back this spring. Like that's also just
the summer, you mean, or
side take maybe for summer with other changes happening to rosters. There's a way that or a place where it makes more sense to Jensen slotting in. I think the more likely like mid laners that were floated on waiting room this week are people like Jizuke or Niski, who's one whose price might be lower. But then therefore two, I think who stylistically, playing different types of players might be more akin to just being slotted into something and causing chaos.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, are you still with us?
I don't know what happened. Yeah, I saw that on stream, and I tried to turn my cam off and on again. I'll try and rejoin the call, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
We know what you look like.
Bluejay, anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, I just want to shout out Bjergsen, actually, because I think he absolutely popped off in the one team fight against Immortals. And I was hoping that maybe Hai could do, I don't know if it's a Hai segment or whatever, but maybe Hai could do a segment about that team fight with Bjergsen. I feel like those two go way back and would have good chemistry. So it was just
you said which team fight against Immortals?
23 minutes Immortals fight.
That's just taking notes for his
Bjergsen dodges everything and lands every laser on Victor. He was an absolute beast, so I think he deserves a shout out for that.
Mark is going to be in the Mark is going to be in the broadcast meetings tomorrow, and Dash is going to go, there's just that one fight that I saw that I really think this would be a great segment.
I think that's what the high segment is for, isn't it? Isn't it for like, I don't know. Anyways.
I feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't spoil this. I have a funny idea as well for this segment now that I would actually want to do on broadcast.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Wow, Bluejay, thank you for the...
Bluejay, you've sparked a good idea for me.
Yes, all right. Thank you.
Glad I could help, guys.
Thank you, Bluejay, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Take care.
Have a good one. Good call. Good discussion. I really appreciate that. All right, while Mark is grabbing the next caller, thank you to Team Corgi Mid for the 2 years. I think I got you before, but just in case. Takuchi, Zin Diesel for gifting a sub and for subbing and for gifting another sub, and then Fish Amols. Thank you, everybody, for the subs. Great time to send in your primes. Taco is here. Is it Taco or Tako?
It's Taco.
Taco. Welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Yokohama, Japan.
Yokohama, Japan. Wow. This might be our first caller from Japan. That's sick. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my topic is that it's time that we accept Fudge as one of the top mid laners in the league. And I put top 3 mids in my take.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so I was looking at Oracle's Elixir for the mid laners. And
I love it when any call starts with, I was looking at Oracle's Elixir. Sorry, continue, but it's always it's a Hotline League classic. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so I was looking at the mid laners for the league, and going into the season, we talked about Fudge as great top laner, but we're not so sure about mid, and he's probably going to grow into the role. And looking at his stats, he pretty much is top 2 or 3 in most of the stats I looked at. The main one that I wanted to note, though, is his death share on his team.
Yes.
Is very low, I would say. It's 14.3% of the deaths on C9. And then he's actually top 1 in kills in the league, top 2 KDA, and top 3 kill participation. So I think he does a good job enabling his team while also not, putting himself at risk.
Is anyone going to go a different direction? Does anyone disagree?
That he's not top 3?
Yeah.
Who else? Who are your other 2? Taco?
Yeah, curious what yours are, Taco.
Honestly, I said top 3 because I wasn't sure where to put him exactly, but he's probably top 2 looking at those stats.
And you're saying only Bjergsen's better than him?
Probably, yeah, or on par with him right now.
So names I want to throw out there would be Takui, actually, right now, who I think is playing as one of the better mids. I'm just not giving my own personal top 3, just putting other names into the conversation. Takui, and then you're probably looking at JoJo as the only other uh, mid laner who probably could be argued. So that's 4 mid laners right there. Mark, out of those 4, is Fudge in the top 3 for you?
I think so. I think the big one that the caller hit that I agree with is like death share or just deaths. You know, like share can sometimes be weird because you're talking about like, well, maybe it's just a really reserved team or whatever. Or like the team's crazy and he's the reserved one, you know. But he actually has only died once pre 15 minutes in spring so far.
Well, I was
And
gonna say,
like,
even before you get to death share, just look at flat deaths, right? He's at 15 for the split, which is second lowest on mid laners. Bjergsen has 11. So even if you just look at that, he's averaging barely over a death a game.
yeah,
which
Sounds
is
like
pretty
a
nutty.
coward, not putting himself out there and making a
Yeah,
plays, taking
and-
risks.
I mean, the thing is too, like, I think he understands he doesn't need to like try and smurf fights, you know. Like, I think him in a role swap his first split not getting exploited is impressive. I think that's the angle I would take with it. It's not that like not dying is inherently good or not, but just the fact that as a role swap player, he's played a shitload of different champions too. There's no champion pool issues really. He's played 2 Ahri, 2 Corki, 2 Ryze, Ivern, Soraka, Aurelia, Zillion, Orianna. You know, he's not just like playing the same champ spam pick, and he's not getting exploited in lane. Really, he's actually highest in XP differential at 10. Though his goal difference in CS is not great. I think he's playing for Blabber and the team, and you can see that in his picks and stuff. I just don't think he's trying to carry. I think he understands that like Blabber and Summit are kind of the early game forces. He actually has really low mid jungle proximity, as well as the fact that Blabber and his bot lane has really low jungle proximity. The game plan is very much like let Blabber do whatever the fuck he wants, and he only comes to lanes to kill people before he goes back on to like farming. And I think that Fudge has a very good identity within the team. And like you said, he actually just plays well. He's just good.
Yeah, I think I just agree with the take.
Go ahead, Dash.
Shit, I kind of want it like because the way it's framed, it does sound spicy. But
let me ask you guys.
A comment that I saw in chat. Somebody said it to me in a weird way. This is maybe almost more a commentary on the
Mid lane pool?
On the mid lane pool.
Damn it, this is where I was going to take it.
Sorry,
I was going to ask you guys.
Maybe it literally is just more a commentary on the power of the LCS mid laners.
Yeah. Do you guys think mid lane has just sort of been disappointing
It sucks
this year? I mean, because I've seen, actually, a lot of people in the chat are talking about JoJo. I am not a JoJo hater, but I'm also not a JoJo fanatic like one Tim Seven Houston, who I love. But has JoJo been a bit of a disappointment? And has Blue, who like started off lock-in, looked really good, and then now, like, what do you guys think this says about the other mid laners? Because it does kind of feel like the pool's not last year. We had Perks, we had Jizuke. Obviously, we didn't have Soren, but like we had Jensen. It felt like last year there was a lot more going on in the mid lane, and this year it's not so much.
So, Mark, I don't know what you think, but I think it's a combo of two things. Number one, it's just a year where we have a lot of quote unquote younger, less experienced mid laners getting their first big shot. I mean, a number of these guys, yes, have played at times in the past, but for a number of these guys in a major region, they're getting their first full split, as starters. So it kind of just feels like it's the changing of the guard. And maybe in another year, a lot of these players like JoJo are going to realize their potential, and the conversation around mid lane will be very different. So one, it's people like Jensen and Jizuke exiting the league and being replaced by these younger guys. But I think the second piece of it, to some degree, is probably just the meta right now and what it affords mid laners, in terms of the ability to look or, showcase themselves as, the best player on the Rift or something like that. And I guess my point being that like a player like Fudge can play everything from top lane champions like Aurelia, that he has tons of experience in and also mid lane champion, to be fair. Anything from Aurelia to Soraka or Ivern and be effective, right? So it may also just be a commentary on what the meta looks like right now for mid laners, and that like playing Veigar doesn't really give a lot of mid laners a ton of space to really pop off and and put themselves above Fudge on a tier list.
Yeah, I think a lot of people called out the fact that the mid lane pool was kind of shit this year. Not
Yeah.
like bad, but just like not a super competitive position where you have a ton of experienced players. And that's why I was kind of excited for, because the question was, who's going to rise up and join? Because when you look at name power, it's like Bjergsen, Abadaga, and
PoE.
PoE should have been the top three. And it's like, who can break into that category? Because the other seven are kind of up in the air. And since then, I think PoE's done better recently. He's been spam picking Orianna.
Exactly.
He's just defaulted to Orianna to be like, fuck it, my team needs wins. I think he's still good. And I think Abba's been struggling and Bjergsen's good. And so it's really just like, who else do you want to really jump up there? And I think Fudge has done it. I think JoJo, he's individually quite good. He's the only one who of these mid laners who feels like an aggressive mid laner. Like I feel like with Jizuke leaving the scene, Perks leaving the scene, not just in terms of skill level but play style, they were down to look like idiots to make a play. And I really think JoJo's the only one in the league who feels that way right now, where he's like willing to kind of look like a dumbass because he thought the play would work. I guess a Blaze Olive kind of fits into that at the right moments.
Maybe Kaiduo.
It's very funny,
parts, right? But he's not LCS anymore.
Yeah.
It's very funny that it's very funny that they replaced Jizuke to get a mid laner who it's and plays a little too aggressive and honestly feels like he's performing worse than Jizuke did. And maybe part of that is like, well, we'll have a franchise player for a very long time, but like, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's the reason. And he's young and there's more of a ceiling there. Whereas Jizuke, I think, you've seen his ceiling more or less with the world's performances and stuff. He's good, but I think they want to take a bigger risk on JoJo. And JoJo, I think the problem he's running into is like, he doesn't seem to work that well with his team. And I don't know if it's his communication or what, but him and Inspire don't get a lot done. He's second in kill participation in the league, only behind Kaiduo, who, like Dash said, is not in the league anymore. So, like it feels like JoJo gets these leads, but he doesn't know exactly how to transfer them to other people or call resources to him. Like when you watch, like, dude, TL is fucking Bjerg's whipping dog. Like everyone goes mid at like anywhere between level, like, Santorin's doing level 2 cheese ganks. They're flashing on mid with core JJ roams. Like, God, they know how to set Bjerg up. And I just don't see that with JoJo. I don't see them ever seem to play that well to him. Core is just good. I mean, like there's other factors. I'm not saying it's just JoJo's fault, but I feel like you don't see either him get the resources the way he needs. Maybe it's him calling for it. I don't know, as someone who's not, fly on the wall, but it's I think it's why he doesn't jump off. His stats look better than his playing game does, I think.
On the JoJo thing, it's actually so annoying because people on Twitch chat, and I've seen this elsewhere on like Twitter and stuff like that, are like, anyone who thought JoJo was going to come in and just instantly be at his top form is trolling. I'm like, guys, I love the trash talk. I don't want to say things that will dissuade people from trash talking. By all means, trash talk and like let EG like push and all this stuff. But like, don't fucking tell me that like EG was not pushing him as if he was like the second coming of Christ. And then later on, and then after he doesn't end up like styling on everybody gets to go like, oh, come on, he's just like a rookie, okay? Be nice. Like, it's gonna take a while. Like, shut up. Like, this is not the way this player was positioned by anybody going into the start of this year. And so, like, you either hold him to the standard that people positioned him at, or you like move on, because it's just so stupid.
Well, so to bring that back to the original point, which was Fudge, right? It kind of works the other way as well, where I think Fudge is getting a lot of credit for his performance in the mid lane because we were all very much told, like, don't expect anything. He was like, hey, I'm swapping. It's going to take me some time to learn. I'm doing it because we have this other incredible top laner come in, but I am going to be, learning in a more supportive role, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I think that does, to a degree, that context feeds into, so far, our evaluation of him, which has been quite positive because he's outperforming even the expectations that we had. I'm ultimately just mad because top 3 role swapping mid laner, top 3 in the league should be a really spicy take, and all of us ultimately agree.
I saw
with it.
you.
It's a good take, so Taco,
I
you have a good take, but I'm like mad that we all agree.
Dash,
It
I
feels
said on
less
the
spicy
desk
now.
this weekend. I don't know if it was the desk or if it was in the it's not, what do you guys call it now? Not countdown.
Waiting room.
Waiting room.
Waiting room. Yeah. You guys, you're gonna run out of names soon. But I saw you on at some point in time. I think there was a tweet or something that was brought up, and you're like, yeah. By the way, we've had to talk about all this other C9 stuff, but again, everyone remember that Fudge roll swapped. Like, let's talk about this finally. It's funny to hear you bring it back here again. Tako, thank you again for the call. It sounds like Fudge should be getting more attention, and I'm glad that you were able to bring it up, and we'll see how that narrative continues to build over the course of the year. Is there anything that you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, shout out Hotline League. You guys are great. Also, Resident Refresh. I've been loving it ever since you guys started that. And
Nice.
yeah, shout out to the analyst tester as well. I think you guys do a great job. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Tako, for the call, and we'll catch you next time. All right. Mark is off to grab the next caller. Thank you to Zin Diesel, who continues to give subs, to Jasky D, and then Pedro Polo. Thank you for the sub as well. Did you move recently, Dash? Jets aside about your background.
About a year ago.
Okay.
So bought a house.
Oh, right. I remember you tweeted about it, and still don't know how you did that, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. KSM is here. KSM, where are you calling from?
Hi, what's going on? I'm calling out of Endicott, New York. For those who don't know where that is, it's right next to Binghamton, which is like south of Syracuse.
Nice.
Upstate New York.
Yeah, I always used to ride Greyhound buses through upstate New York.
Hey, there you go.
I love anytime we get anybody who calls in from the Boston or upstate New York area. I'm just like, Mark can relate to this. Anyway, KSM, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, my take is orgs should hold their players more accountable for fuck ups that they, that's 100% their fault, rather than just letting the orgs do whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Are you the guy that I told to call in on Twitter because we were disagreeing on Twitter?
I sure am.
Okay, yes, fantastic. Okay, why don't you? I can't find the Twitter chain, but what do you want to explain? What your how this conversation came about?
Yeah, actually, I have the Twitter right here. Hold on.
Oh, I think it was when I tweeted for while you're looking for it. I think I found it. But for context, last week, TSM announced that Shenyi was going to come back, Ki Duo was going to go out, and then they said that they explained finally in an interview. Chawi, their coach, said that it was because Shenyi was originally subbed out in part because he locked in a champion that he that like the coaching staff and he wasn't supposed to lock in on stage. And then whenever they confronted him about it, he was like very adversarial or something to that effect.
Rude.
Rude. Rude was the word. Then so I tweeted this out because they like Upcomer led with the headline that like, oh, Shenyi's back and Kaedo was out, and so I just tweeted out and then linked in the Twitter thread to this thing. One, a bunch of people thought that I was the one that was breaking the news, which is not the case. If you look at the chain, I'm linking to the Upcomer or the tweet from TSM with the Upcomer article. But then a bunch of people accused me of being TSM PR, which was very, very funny and strange because I don't know what I like. That same week, I put out a video that was like, "Here's why TSM sucks." And then a bunch of people had the take, which was, I think Dom made a joke about how like, haha, he's actually should be doing this because the coaching staff sucks. But a bunch of people had the take then that Shenyi was right to be doing this and shouldn't have been punished, which I thought was like a take that I never expected to go in that direction. So it was just kind of a shit show. I've almost forgotten that this happened. I don't know why. It was only a couple days ago. But hello, caller, please break down how the conversation went.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you just said Shenyi YOLO locked. I'll read the tweet. Shenyi YOLO locked a champ on stage and then was rude to the coaches when they confronted him about it. Hopefully, this shows out the TSM fans who thought he was a huge victim in the situation. Someone responded was basically like, was it hard? Was it that hard to give clarity? Essentially, and you said it could be hard to give clarity. People act like all this stuff happens in a vacuum, which is true. If you're trying to rebuild a shitty relationship with a player on a team, throwing them under the bus isn't a great start. Now, where I disagree is I don't necessarily think this is throwing someone under the bus. Uh, it's simply just because, like, if it's something they literally did, it's 100% their fault. As long as TSM is actually this is true, which I would assume it is. Let's, for argument's sake, say it's true. Um, if what they're saying is true, then I don't feel this is throwing. Like, I could see if, like, here's why I think it's not throwing Shenyi under the bus. If Chawi was like, yo, like, I don't think Rel's a really good pick here. Like, if you want to pick it, like, but just pick Nautilus or something like that, and then he just fucking picks, Rel anyway. Okay, that's throwing him on the bus because technically you said, like, yeah, you can pick this champion, that's fine, but like, I'd rather you play this. But he literally just fucking YOLO locked a champion, was like, fuck it, full send. He should own up to that. I don't think the org should be pussyfooting around this issue like it's like.
So just not to get lost in semantics, but the only thing I want to say is I think it is absolutely throwing somebody under the bus to say, if I go to Dash's house and I spit on his floor when he's not in the room, and then Dash walks in, and Mark goes, by the way, Travis just spit on your floor. Even though, yes, I spit on his floor, he is still throwing me under the bus.
I'm not throwing you under the bus because that's just telling the truth.
Yes, but that's what it is. You're exposing, whenever you expose somebody that somebody did something, you're throwing them
someone
under the bus.
Under the bus is like intentionally making them look worse. Like, you spitting on a floor is a fucked up thing to do.
But you can. I think we all need to just figure out what this definition is, but maybe not right now. Regardless, your take is KSM.
I digress.
Is yes. Your take. I'm sorry about your floor Dash. KSM, but your major thing is that TSM should have just been willing to say this from the start because it was Shenyi's fuck up, and so who cares?
Well, I think we.
To clarify real quick, I'm not condoning like 100% transparency all the time, 24/7. And I'm also not, vice versa. I'm not, asking for some PR bullshit every single time. But I feel like in this situation, in certain situations, you should be able to tell the difference between, hey, this player needs to take responsibility for his actions, and hey, maybe I shouldn't release this to the press because fans will not understand or they won't relate to a certain issue. For example, like the upset situation.
Here, let Mark cut in.
I think let's let Dash talk.
Sure.
I know Dash loves talking to me about coaching stuff, so I would love to let him go first before I chime in. Let's get the hosts on to talk.
I kind of wanted you to go first, Mark.
You want me to go first?
Mark, go.
Yeah, you go first.
I'll defer whatever you prefer. For me, I am admittedly too far on the transparency side. I admit that when I was a coach, there were times that players did fucked up things, and players love issuing ultimatums. To be honest, I feel like I get an ultimatum every couple weeks, and I was always the type to be like, call the bluff, fuck you, and let's I don't feel like I did anything wrong, and so like the whole like mutually assured destruction thing is never going to work with me most of the time. I was always down to kind of be willing to like take those situations on. And it's the same way when a player does something, I kind of agree. Like, I didn't make you do that. You chose to do that. And I think this is one of the disconnects again with traditional sports. It's like, for the most part, you don't air dirty laundry of like every single thing that goes wrong, because there's going to be millions of things that go wrong over the course of a split. But when someone does something especially egregious to the point that you bench them, I don't think you need to protect them necessarily. And I think you see this in traditional sports all the time. Mike Singletary had a legendary pop-off about a player who's, you can't play with him, can't win with him. He roasted him to the media, and then they ended up getting back together again because, the player got called out. It's not that unheard of to have players who have disciplinary reasons for things that you do, to have those kind of come to light. And the biggest problem with this messaging for me is not that they didn't give clarity about exactly what the disciplinary actions were, but they tried to sell it as developmental reasons. And it was so clearly nonsensical because, like, why are you bringing this player and putting him down into academy to develop? And because you're doing one thing for one reason and telling a completely different reason to the public, we can pretty quickly be like, this doesn't make much sense. And then the Shenyi conversation leaks, and then this whole other thing spills out as a result. So, like, it is, I think, the bigger problem to bench someone for disciplinary reasons and say developmental reasons, and then let everything spiral out of control from there.
So really, really quickly, because Dash is apparently down to go last. The situation here is, I think, oftentimes about 100T, because 100T, when 100T Cody suns someone, that is when whatever, I feel like there's a lack of transparency and like it's too much or whatever. It's just like really weird, right? Because it's happened multiple times, right? Or was it Medios where it happened multiple times? Was it both of them? I forget. But like, I remember 2019 or something like that, we had Nate Shot on, and like it was an uncomfortable episode. He hasn't been on back since and all that. But we talked about how there was like this lack of transparency around what happened. Yeah, it was Medios. Cody Sun, it happened once with Cody Sun, and I think twice with Medios. And then like that is very frustrating, and I agree that there needs to be more transparency. The difficulty, and it's hard for me to speak on this compared to Mark, because Mark obviously was on the coaching side, but I can understand. I think fans should probably understand why it might be difficult when you have a player who doesn't respect you and your team, presumably because Shenyi seemed to be rude about it on the way out. And like they're brand new to this org, and you're trying to brand build around this player that's like just showed up and has played for like 2 weeks, and you are trying to build like this trust with the player to be like, you fucked up and now we're going to publicly shame you for it by like releasing the reason why, rather than saying, hey, we're benching for disciplinary reasons. And so I think there is something in between what 100T has done in the past and what TSM has done, and then like Noah Winston firing somebody or threatening them at an in and out or whatever happened, I forget, a long time ago with Overwatch. There's something in between, or I guess the Bud Light Ace is, I guess, the better example of the
Bud Light
CLG,
Ace, the Cloud9 benching. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that is why it is frustrating to me, because I sit in the middle, and I can understand, even as somebody who loves like the transparency of this stuff and wants to like talk about it and all that stuff, I can understand why complete transparency and putting your players out there, whether it's throwing them under the bus or whatever, and just instantly like hitting their reputation. They have to live with that. They have to deal with all this stuff, and like I think that can be difficult. And so that is the only thing I was going with on Twitter whenever we were in that conversation, KSM, is like, it is difficult for me to just be like, yes, every org should just say everything and every reason that they're benching every player and all this stuff, because sometimes there are things behind the scenes. Like there are long-term ramifications for that player's brand, for your relationship with that player, for a lot of stuff that I think goes into it. Mark presumably is like, actually that's not the case at all. I was a coach, so shut up, Travis. But
no, I just think like
just don't do stupid shit. I mean,
one don't do stupid shit, and like
it's not as simple as that, because people focus on the Shenyi thing, and it's like we should like, as it's like, oh, Shenyi deserves this. Okay, yeah, maybe, but also you have to continue to work with this person for potentially the rest of the year or for the rest of their contract or whatever. Maybe you don't want them shit talking you behind the scenes. Like, I get it, because I am the type of person that kind of likes the justice porn stuff, or what leopards ate my face or whatever, the Reddit thing, for those that are familiar. Like it's fun sometimes where it's like, this person fucked up. Okay, now these are the fucking consequences. But there's also the practical nature of you have a long-term working relationship with this person. Well, if you just go out there and shove them, like, that can be detrimental to your long-term goals.
It's a two-way street now. I mean,
well, hold on, let me get in here, because the brand damage, the player damage, the relationship damage, all that can be mended. Like, you can just talk it out. Like, a lot of these things, like, people get back together again. It's usually not the end of the world. people are so worried about brand damage for a player. Dardoch had a whole fucking documentary made about him, and he's been through 8 more teams since then, or whatever it is.
What's his brand like these days,
die.
Mark?
What's that?
What's his brand like these days?
No, but my point is, he literally got
Sure,
jobs
it didn't stop his
More
career.
chances.
He didn't fucking die and leave the scene because a team
Yes.
said that he was toxic. You know, like if you say a player did something wrong, they're not going to disappear off the face of the earth. You know, like it's not that drastic. And it's the same with like if you find a way to tactfully do the PR, because that's the important thing. You don't just want to blast. I agree, you don't want to blast your player, but like they ended up saying it here anyways. You can find ways to navigate this situation and still have a relationship with that person. And I think that's the hard part of PR, is doing that correctly. But I don't think just saying other reasons and confusing your fans and everyone else is a better solution. So I just think it happens, shit happens, and like people can do water in the bridge. Pobelter got burned so bad by TL. Pobelter got fucked over by TL and Steve back in the day. What happens? This is when they were cursed. But then you know what happens? He goes win some titles with them.
Immortal sells his
2018.
contract and he ends up on the team without his no, obviously it worked out long term. But it's not like he signed up for that TL thing.
Like people and brands and orgs do different things. They cross each other over, but the scene's so incestuous that like people make it work.
Yeah.
You know, like
And just to be clear, I'm not saying what TSM did was right before a bunch of randos on the fucking YouTube comments come out and are like, can't believe Travis is defending TSM on this thing. Like, obviously, especially them saying, like, we're benching for developmental reasons and we want to make him feel comfortable. That's, like, really weird whenever obviously that wasn't the case. Dash, close us out here. Bring us together.
Oh, my goodness.
Heal these wounds.
Now. I mean, okay, so number one, I think it's important to recognize that there's no objectively right answer in this conversation here. But also, we've departed from at least what was originally stated as the take here, which is number one, orgs should hold players more accountable for fuck ups, and we've now moved on to the PR handling of fuck ups, which is one piece of accountability. Because actually addressing the original take, I agree, orgs should hold players more accountable for fuck ups. The fact that a player can be on stage and can ignore a coach directive and pick a champion and perhaps doom the results of a game for the team when you only play 18 games in a split, that's terrifying. Like that situation can even happen, and that there are environments and circumstances where that can happen. So I do agree, teams need to hold players more accountable for fuck ups, but there are ways to hold players accountable, which is not putting them on public blast. That's a different conversation. To the conversation that kind of was spurned out of this, which is about how do teams deal with it, you know, from a public relations standpoint. I think one thing that's really important to recognize is that orgs have to juggle responsibility for their own brand, for their players, for the league, and for the fans, right? So they aren't responsible just to themselves or just to the fans or just to the league or just to the players. They're responsible to all of those things. So there is some middle ground, I think, in where everything that you guys have been talking about is the correct answer. And I think this TSM example is the perfect case study for it, because in essence, what we saw was all of the negative effects that not being straight with your PR can have, right? Things like not only it being damaging to your org, but it being damaging to your other players. The fact that Spica is now under mental distress because the fan base is going after him and he now feels obligated to speak out against it and to deal with it. They're 1-8 can very much actually probably be how much better would they be? I don't know. But
2-8,
right? Could they be? Yeah, could they be 2-7 or 3-6 instead of 1-8 if they weren't having to deal with, if they had just dealt with this the right way the first week that it happened, right? Which is to say, we're benching Shenyi for disciplinary reasons. You don't have to tell me what they are, right? Or you can say for disciplinary reasons, and that's as much as we're willing to tell anybody at this point. We expect to have him in academy for 2 weeks before he returns to the LCS. Just be clear and direct with what your intentions are in the move. Enough information to justify the move, even if you're not giving the details of the situation, but to give no reasoning, first of all, then to follow up with incorrect reasoning is just, it's just a cascading issue. So ultimately, yes, org should hold players more accountable. That's something that I talk to Mark about all the time behind the scenes. Is like I'm frustrated at the idea that coaches and support staff don't have more power, in a sense, to reduce it to a single term. Don't have more power over their teams. Like that comes from my traditional sports background. I cannot imagine a world where I just like completely disregarded something that my coach told me. We might have that argument, but we're going to have it in a space that is constructive, or rather just gives us the time to hash it out. We're not going to do it on this. I'm not going to be getting on the line for my 800 and then turn to my coach and be like, by the way, screw you. I'm going out real hard and I'm just going to try and win the, burn it from start to finish. Like that doesn't make any sense. It's not what we practice. It's not what we talked about. So absolutely a coach should be able to hold me accountable for that. But it is weird to me. Esports is, I think, just a young ecosystem where players do hold too much power, it seems, in a number of cases when it comes to the way that things are run behind the scenes.
And I think to that point, like there are multiple, like it's funny because Double If, Meteos, and Sneaky on their like podcast earlier were talking about the other end of this where they feel like orgs have too much power too.
Yes. I was just thinking that. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, I feel like there's different sides to it, and I think it also depends a lot of times. Like a star player will obviously still have that sway, even in traditional sports. Like you don't really get to tell LeBron to fuck off, probably, no matter who you are as the coach.
Yeah, well, you're right. Bjergsen, right? You're going to handle something with Bjergsen very differently than you're going to handle something or with JoJo, right? Like just take one of the, like, absolutely different players, different times in their careers. They demand different amounts of respect and different ways of working with each other. Tom Brady probably got away with a lot of whatever the hell he wanted to get
Andre
away with.
kind of talked about this on the call with Revenge a couple weeks ago.
Tom Brady was a saint. He only ever did things correct.
All right.
Exactly.
Back to
with being the hardest worker on the field is what he got
away
with.
All right. Yes. No, it is very funny because I do think players hold in a lot of areas more power than the teams do in this place. But if you look online, a lot of people are like, they should bring franchising back. These orgs have way too much power. It's very funny. KSM, thank you so much for the call, and thanks for taking. I have asked people who I have disagreed with online and Reddit comments and Twitter comments, YouTube, etc., to call into the show to have the conversation with me. They always wuss out. So thank you for actually calling in. I appreciate it.
Well, fuck you, Travis. I'm gonna call you out every time.
Great.
Hell yeah.
Fantastic. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out. I'm gonna shout out my son Varian. I love you. My wife Sela. Love you. TSM's gonna make Worlds.
Oh,
I don't know how, but it's gonna happen. They're gonna bring it back. The Miracle Run.
Very good.
That's it.
Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
See you guys.
Peace out, man.
See it. Man, that shout out was going so well.
I know. It's like, oh, this is so wholesome. He like
also
said
completely changes the lens of his take there.
I didn't think he was a TSM fan.
I didn't think he was a TSM fan either, but now I'm starting to get it a little bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, whenever it takes a TSM fan to take me up on the call in on the show and then also to say fuck you on the way out. That's definitely a TSM fan right there. Anyway. Mark, you want to actually let's take a quick break to talk.
You want the break?
Yeah. Let's take a quick break to talk about Grubhub. Thank you to Grubhub for sponsoring the show. Mark, have you purchased or ordered any awesome deliveries as of late? In the past
Grubhub is officially my avocado toast delivery service.
Okay,
basically, I just keep getting avocado toast all the time.
Well, what many people might... I've been ordering a bunch of stuff. Actually, I order... Dash, you're from San Diego originally, right?
That is correct.
Did you ever go to Rubio's down there, the fish taco place? It's so good.
Yeah. It's a little chain place.
Yes, they have one up in LA now, and I've been ordering a lot of Rubio's lately, which has been fantastic because I ate a lot of it growing up. But Grubhub is fantastic, and one of the things that is great about them is the Grubhub guarantee, which basically means that if your order is not delivered on time, they will make it right. So it's something I've only ever had to use once. I think it was out of their control, but they still owned up to it, and I was able to submit the request for the Grubhub guarantee through it and get some credit back, which is awesome of them. So I think Grubhub is it's a fantastic service. I've been using it a ton, obviously. They sponsor the LCS, which we love. And
Yo, I use Grubhub all the time. I'll give them a free plug. Not only will they make it right if the order's not on time, I've had orders that are screwed up, missing an item. It's really, really simple. Actually, you don't even have to interact with a person. You just get to click through, select the thing off your receipt, say it was missing, boom, refunded.
Yeah. No, it is super cool. So thank you so much to Grubhub. Again, on time, lowest prices, or they'll make it right. That's the Grubhub guarantee. If you all are interested in ordering Grubhub at some point in time in the future, please use my link. You can use it in the Twitch chat, or sorry, in the Twitch chat, I'll do ! Grubhub. But also on YouTube, you can use the link there. And when you do that, you help me win the battle to get more credit for Grubhub than Riot gets for sponsoring their broadcast. So just make sure that I am the one receiving all the attention for that. Anyway, thanks so much, Grubhub, for sponsoring the show. Dash absentmindedly nodding his head to me, challenging the broadcast. I appreciate it. Mark, you want to grab our next caller? Can I use the code more than once? So, Atis, the link that you order through is actually endless. We do have codes sometimes, not always, but promos. So look forward to more of those in the future. Okay. Where are we? Thank you to Got the Dooms, Murder of Birds. Hey, good to see you, Arnold. I got banned, so new account. Zen Diesel gifted to I'm a Hobolin, Core JJ, and Dash. So I'm sure Dash will appreciate that sub.
Thank you.
A Korean guy is here. A Korean guy, where are you calling from?
I am calling in from Boston.
Sorry, you're a little quiet. Where?
From Boston.
Boston. Fantastic. Okay, there we go. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that EG is overrated, and I think it's surprising overall that there's a legitimate argument that FlyQuest is the best team after C9 and TL, and the standings say that. So
gotcha.
Yeah, like basically, like I'm an eye test guy for the most part. They're smarter people than me that will know the answers and reasons why. But FlyQuest looks pretty good, and for a team that wasn't really hyped preseason compared to say an EG or 100 Thieves, who are, I mean, gotta be honest, they're pretty much dropping the ball here. And I'm not sure if it's FlyQuest playing well or it's them just blowing it, but 7 wins out of 11 is 7 wins.
So, kind of the take is EG was overhyped and FlyQuest was underhyped, and we're seeing that right now in the standings.
Yeah, and it's yeah, I think it's overall pretty surprising that FlyQuest is a legit like title contender.
Yeah. Well, do you think they are a title contender? Do you think they're up there with C9 and TL?
I mean, I wouldn't say like. I mean, just I think if a team is in third, I mean, I would consider that a title contender. That's just me. But C9 and TL are definitely a tier above them.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. So it's finally time to hold EG accountable. Dash or Mark, which of you guys wants to pop in first?
I don't know if I think that. I don't know if I agree with this one. Because I don't actually think that EG, at least in my book, wasn't necessarily expected to be a top 3 team. Maybe top 4, top 5. Which they're very close. They are tied for 5th, technically. So I would say in a number of ways, EG is performing to chalk. But also, given that you're an eye test person, I actually think in a number of ways you can look at eye tests for EG and at times, and you can explain away a few of their losses probably, and just see how the individual pieces are good, even though the puzzle itself doesn't entirely fit together. What's interesting about the FlyQuest side of things is I think the opposite. Like I think their record lies a little bit. I do think that if you look at the 2 teams that they beat so far in the back half, it's Dignitas and TSM, right? So they've beat the worst team in the league, free win, and then they've beaten Dignitas, who we expect to be, you know, a middling team. And so in a lot of ways, I think that 7-4 in a sense kind of lies, where EG lost to Cloud9 this weekend in a rematch and won against Immortals. So when if EG plays TSM and FlyQuest plays Cloud9, they get one game closer, right? Like, so I don't actually think FlyQuest is our third best team. I think they're fourth, fifth, sixth. I think EG is fourth, fifth, sixth as well. Personally, is my current take on those two teams. So yeah, I don't know where you land on those two teams, Mark, but I would actually argue that FlyQuest is the one that's a little bit overrated, and EG is performing to expectation.
I think the lame answer, we'll call them B, because the thing that sucks about EG is how good they did in lock-in tournament makes me want to think that they could have been a top 3 team. I think in the dive we ended up putting them top 3 after watching lock-ins, even though they got slammed by TL in the finals. And it's not the same way that I can see how FlyQuest, like I didn't think FlyQuest was going to be good, but now that we see that they're halfway decent and 100 Thieves is struggling and EG is struggling, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see how they're currently third. I don't actually think they're the third best team in the LCS. I'm part of, like, the FlyQuest hater gang exists. I know it does. People are mad at Jat for being biased against them. Everyone's mad about us, everyone doubting FlyQuest, but
yeah, but it's true. Look at the way they got their wins, right? Like a number of their wins already we've talked about came off of the back of Smite Top, right? Like if you replay all of the Smite Top games in the split without Smite Top being a thing, is FlyQuest still 7-4? Or are they 5-6?
Would either of you guys be surprised to see FlyQuest in Houston in a month? Like for that third place or for that Saturday match, I guess I should say.
Yeah. I would not be surprised because again, that means they finish in 4th, like through the playoffs. Like they
finish third, and right? There's only 3, right? Isn't it?
Well,
they're double limit?
Oh, you're right. In the new format, you're right.
You only send 3.
2, yeah, you're right. I was thinking, yeah. So you're right. Ooh, then I would be surprised. Yeah, by my own power rankings there.
Yeah, but to that point, like. EG is dropping the ball. I feel like 100 Thieves is dropping the ball.
That's what I mean. That's my point. Is like I would not be surprised. It's not my expectation necessarily. Honestly, actually, I'll say I'd give them equal odds with 100 Thieves and EG for being there.
All of them are 33%.
Yeah, like it right now between those 3, I'm not like, wow, EG looks a lot better than Fly. I mean, Dash, to your point, you're like, well, FlyQuest is like 3rd to 5th somewhere in there, and so's EG. Like, that's why I'm not necessarily surprised because I feel like they have as much of a chance of going as 100 Thieves and EG. Also, by the way, not 33% because I'm sure Dig and whatever, maybe GG or somebody has some extra points, but like for all intensive purposes, yeah, like they're equal chances between the 3 of those teams. So.
I like Raz's point in Twitch chat. The typical Travis answer: "Who knows? Anything is possible." From here.
I'm disagreeing with these guys, Raz. They're the ones saying there's no chance, or they'd be surprised. And I'm saying I wouldn't.
TSM will be there. You watch out. No, I mean, I actually do think we're in agreement, Travis. Like, because that's essentially what I'm saying. Is I'm saying FlyQuest is not. I think FlyQuest is not as good as their record. EG's not as bad as their record, and that is basically to say that all of those teams are competitive for 3rd place. I think it is very clear that TL and C9 are better than the rest right now. So then it does become about that battle for 3rd place. And on any given day, any of those teams can win. Now, if you ask me to think about or like project growth onto these teams, that's where I can see a team like EG having more potential. 100 Thieves recapturing, their championship form and just blowing FlyQuest out of the water at that point. I don't see the same kind of firepower on FlyQuest as I do on EG and 100 Thieves when they're playing at their peak. If we just assume they're playing at peak.
Well, here's the other thing that I think you're wrong about, Dash. Take
Bring
that,
it on.
Raz. The other thing I think is unusual is like I don't think EG is playing where people expected them to be. Like, yes, maybe they're like in 5th place, and you expected them 3rd through 5th, and people were placing them top 5. But like when I would at the beginning of the year, when people heard a lineup of Impact, Inspired, Vulcan, again, everybody was hyping up JoJo and Danny, like the boy genius from last year. I think people were like, this is going to be a very inspiring team to watch. No pun intended. And instead, like, I think that like people right now feel pretty similar to them and Dig and 100T, and like I guess 100T is supposed to be good too, but right, like I don't feel like people feel as though they really stand out from the pack at this moment in time, and I think people did expect them to be a very compelling team, and right now I don't think they are that. Mark? Now we're getting this is only spring, folks, for the EG roster. Same thing we got for JoJo. Sorry, continue.
Yeah,
Mark.
I was gonna say it's one of those things where like Dignitas does it like every year. There's one of these teams that you just kind of don't really believe in. You know, it feels like we're like some of the top teams underperform, one of the bottom teams overperforms, and you get this team in the top of the standings that you don't believe in. They go into the first round of playoffs and they lose. You know, Dig did this last year. That's kind of how FlyQuest feel to me, and I hope I'm wrong, you know, because it's a fucking lame storyline to tell and just sell people not to get excited about this team. But it's hard to also talk about them and not feel like you're being disingenuous to your own thoughts when you say like, no, you should really be excited about this FlyQuest roster. They are the third best team in the LCS. It's like I can't physically say that with a straight face. I can't do it. So like.
Only two, I'm just going to interject by looking at match history. The only two teams that EG has lost to that are below them in the standings are CLG and Immortals. Otherwise, all of their losses this split come against 2 losses against Cloud9, 1 against Team Liquid, 1 against 100 Thieves. And then it's Immortals and CLG. So those are the two. They've beaten FlyQuest in their only meeting.
But
so
Dash,
like
FlyQuest has only lost to C9, TL, Immortals, and EG. Top teams. They've beaten 100 Thieves even.
Well, there you go. But this, I guess, this is my point of like, I think all these teams are essentially even, right? Which is both of these teams are losing to the teams above them. In the matchup between each other, it's EG who got the better. However, you could argue then that FlyQuest shows a little bit more consistency over the teams that they are better than. So they're getting more of the surefire wins. But to me, that actually stylistically lines up with the two teams and the organizations. Like EG is a little bit more of a volatile team, even if you have a really stable, strong, top laner in Impact. You've got JoJo, who is just a different version of Jizuke. This is a team that I think is prone to losing. Vulcan himself, as a support player, I think is prone to having some major plays, but then occasionally a misplay. And so like, it doesn't, again, I don't know. I don't think it surprises me where EG finds themselves right now.
But you just said that they're about even with each other. You would have expected, like, I think if they are if they're about even with each other in terms of strength, I think EG should feel bad that they're about as good as FlyQuest, and FlyQuest should feel good that they're about as good as EG with these rosters.
I will agree with that.
I'm with Travis on this one.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't think I don't think I'll ever be able to say with a straight face, FlyQuest is our third best team in the LCS until they're in Houston, like you're saying, Travis.
Yeah.
Until they've beaten the teams in the best of 5s. But I can say that they're better than I thought they were based off my own preseason expectations. And they're doing better than anyone thought they would have. Jose Dioto's legit having his best split so far in NA and looks like an actual powerhouse in some of these games. Afro is still Afro and a beast, and he has kind of brought Johnson back up to the level when people were excited about Johnson. And Takui and Kumo, who were the sole lanes people were worried about, are holding their own more or less. So, like, I think it's a much better team than we gave them credit for. But at the same time, I look at other rosters and I'm like, shouldn't you be better than that, even with all the things I just said?
Caller.
But I guess not.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Can I get one last point in?
Yeah, really quickly.
Yeah, so like, I think so. I guess I'm a bit of a FlyQuest fan then, or believer, because I think it's credit to FlyQuest that, given the perceived lesser firepower that they have, that they, out of between 100T, EG, and them, to me, they have like the clearest like team identity, and like I see how they play. And squads like EG or 100 Thieves who have all the talent that you might want, but they just can't put it together. I put a lot of credit, I suppose, and this is just me. I put a lot of credit on ability to execute and put it together, and EG and 100 Thieves, for all their talent, they're just not doing that compared to FlyQuest. So
anything you want to shout out?
Shout out? No, I mean the show. you guys are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. And
Thanks.
shout out to the broadcast desk. You guys are doing a great job too.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Crane Guy, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Peace.
Uh-oh. Mark is now in the waiting room by himself. There was somebody's waiting has clearly had some audio issues. So hopefully.
Okay. Do you mind? It's 9 p.m. It's my puppy's dinner time. Can I go snag her? and
Yes.
Be here real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello?
Yes. Dash has to go feed the dog.
Oh, here I'll listen to the take and then I'll
Okay.
go run and I'll think about it.
Sure. Okay. Brandywine.
Okay.
Where are you calling from? Brandywine. Do we need to join the waiting room?
His mic lit up a second ago. I don't know what he's doing. You don't push to talk? Did you forget about it? No, you just lit up a second ago. Just talking to your unmute yourself and talking to your microphone. I saw your microphone light up.
First off, stop berating this poor person who's probably panicking right now. Dash, go feed your dog. We'll figure this out. Mark is. I agree with Twitch chat. Mark is definitely on one today. This is true.
My cats are
let's all join the waiting room because this has occurred before where we bring.
No, it wasn't working in the waiting room.
Oh, there we go. Hello, Brandywine.
Oh, there
hello.
it is. Finally.
Yes. Where are you calling from? Oh, I think you need to mute.
Mute the stream.
Mute the stream because you're listening to us
I've
through
muted
the
the
stream.
Yes, I'm hearing it pass. All right, yes, I'm calling from Southern Oregon.
From Oregon. Okay. How much of a panic were you going through as Mark was screaming at you seconds ago on the show?
I was going through quite a panic as Mark.
I've been screaming at him for about a minute too because I was screaming at him in the waiting room and I was like, "Disconnect, rejoin."
Brandywine, first off, I would just like to apologize. The treatment that you received is not what you deserved.
I appreciate that.
What is your take?
So my take, I think this is the one I was pulled for. I think it's important for all of the fans of the LCS, and it's more related to the broadcast. I don't know if Dash is still here, but it is for Dash.
We can fill him in.
And my take is that it would be awesome if Dash would share his hair care routine and any product recommendations with us tonight. Each week I'm in awe of his luscious locks, and as a fellow, I guess I'm more dark blonde haired, but he's light brown haired, so that's close. Person, I will be taking notes on this.
Okay, we're winding down the show with a very
Looks
serious
like Dash
take.
caught the end of
Dash,
this one.
what is your hair care routine?
So I mean, what's funny about this is, all right, bunch of disclaimers. Number one, our hair is not the same. So what
I've got to go feed a dog too, guys. Sorry, I'll be back in 10 minutes.
So that's number one.
Sure.
But number two, the most important thing that you can do is go get a good hairstylist. I spend a lot of money on my hair. I don't think that's necessarily a secret, but finding a very good stylist and somebody that you ultimately, trust and feel comfortable having like open conversations with about what your goals are for your hair is very important. Most of what I've learned about in a way, but like most of what I've learned about hair has come directly from my stylist. It's been me not knowing the answer to a question I have and then just being willing to ask it. So one, find a good stylist, actually talk to them about what your hair goals are. In concert with that, bringing photos is, I think, a very good way. Like, so, okay, if you really like my hair, bring a photo of me to your stylist and say, like, I like this guy's hairstyle. One, do you think my hair can do that? What would be the process of growing towards that? And can we start to style my hair that way? Or other people, again, I've basically literally gone to Google and just typed in men's hairstyles and then found pictures of hairstyles that I like and take them to my stylist. They then will be able to direct you in terms of like what you need to do to care for your hair, ultimately cut it and shape it the way it needs to be. Then ask them to show you how to style your hair. I think one of the most common mistakes, again, is just assuming that a good haircut means that you're going to have a good hairstyle. It definitely helps. It's the foundation, but learning how to actually style the hair once it's cut is important. So I always ask my stylist, especially when I'm getting a new style, to say at the end of the haircut, like, would you mind styling it for me? And also talking out the steps that you're taking as you do it. Can you explain? So that's how I learned how to tease hair for the first time, right? the process of getting heat onto the hair while using a comb to tease hair to create volume. That's where I've learned about other products like using powders to create volume as well. Don't over shampoo and condition your hair. I only wash my hair a couple times a week. Um, then what else? Get a hair dryer for yourself if the style that you're going for likely requires one. I think a hair dryer is one of the best investments that a man uh, uh, can make. Well, for any person.
Wrong. It's a power tool.
Uh, yeah, you're right. After socket wrench comes hair dryer. And then let's see what else. I don't know. That's about. Oh, and then good product. But again, like products, I use different products depending on what the style I'm going for is. So like sometimes I use a very heavy, wet, pomade or something because I want a tighter, slicker look, or I want the shine, or I use a matte, like a really dry, like kind of hard wax because I want it to keep its volume and have a matte look. Sometimes I use pins and braids and all kinds of things like that. So there's tons of different ways you can go for it. I think the best advice I can give is talk to your stylist about what you need to do for your own hair health and then about what your goals are, and like just become an active participant in that conversation.
Alternative answer, because I'm sure you want to know from me. Head and Shoulders 2-in-1 dandruff shampoo. That's a big dub. And the second thing is go one time, treat yourself to like one of those like really fancy salons. There's like these they're almost like retreats. Like they get you cucumber water and they like, they're like the people who have strong opinions on like style and fashion. You go there one time, you say, fuck my shit up, fam. And whatever they do to your hair, you take a picture afterwards, you take some notes, and then you go back to your like local barber and ask them to recreate it. At Supercuts, yeah.
I'm still
Love
seeing
that for a
Bjergsen
budget
stylist, so that's where I'm getting my haircut these days.
Do both and report back.
Well,
It's really what works best for you. It could be the Head and Shoulders 2-in-1. It could be Dash's whole thing. Yeah, really.
I will be honest.
Right,
So
right.
the entire time this conversation was happening, I was looking at the viewer count on the stream because I was waiting for, like, normally at the end of the show, a bunch of people drop off, and I was like, okay, I thought we were gonna drop a couple hundred. We dropped 1533 to 1512. So we actually retained an incredible amount of viewership. I did not anticipate that. Dash, one quick question is, how often do you go?
Like I said, it's an important topic.
How often do you go to the stylist?
Probably on with my longer hair every 4 weeks, because you don't need to cut it as often. When I had shorter hair, probably every 3 weeks, just because it starts to get unruly. But yeah, I get my hair cut often. I get it colored and toned. Like most of this is my natural hair color, but you can see highlights in here. Like that is artificial, right? So like we are doing things to my hair to make it look more dynamic, and so I get that done every few months. Also, if you have a beard, take care of your beard. Too many people just have unkempt beards. I go to a barber shop every like 4 months just to have them do it, and then I do my own trimming and grooming for like the in between those 4 month periods. But having somebody kind of line everything up and again give you that example by which to work from, always a good idea. So
You don't trust your stylist to do it for you?
She does not want to do
Okay.
my beard, which is totally fair. So now I got a beard guy, I got a hair girl.
All right. Thank you,
Gotcha.
caller. Anything you want to shout out?
Just want to shout out at the end, your sponsors for keeping you on the air. This show's great. For Brandon Sanderson for announcing 5 books the other day, and
Yes.
To my lovely partner who etched me an awesome custom FlyQuest wine glass for Valentine's Day.
Hell
Awesome.
yeah, dope gift.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brandywine, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks. Have a good one.
It's funny. I was going to shout out Brandon Sanderson in the back half of this, or at the end of this. But Mark, what do you got for us? What do you want to plug?
Plug Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter. It broke basically every Kickstarter record you can imagine, including the biggest Kickstarter of all time, and it's for fucking books. That's dope. I pledged the $480 for the physical copy plus the
Wait, I pledged 500.
box.
What was the 480? What's the $20 difference?
What? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It was shipping. I don't know.
Oh, you paid for the yeah. Mine was like 620. After
Yeah.
shipping.
It was the physical copy of the book, like the premium copy, and then it was the actual like gift basket or like the monthly things, right?
Yes.
Box.
Oh, 480.
480 plus 120. It was like 600 total, I think. Oh, there she is. Hello.
Oh, I'm also getting the audiobooks. You're not getting the audiobooks.
No.
That is the difference.
Look at that girl. She's so cute.
She's huge. She's already massive.
Podcast listeners,
she
there's
just
an
went
animal.
outside and found a rock, so now she thinks I'm going to take it away from her. So she's you dropped it.
Swallow it.
No, she just dropped it. Now she's going to try and climb down for it. But this is Azula. Everybody who's never met Fire Lord Azula before, she's just over 3 months old.
That dog's going to get
Gorgeous.
big.
She's going to get massive. She's already over 20 pounds. She's a giant ball of energy, but I love her very much.
Golden Retriever?
Golden Retriever, yeah.
Yeah. The podcast listeners can just imagine a large puppy in Dash's arms.
This is worth pulling up the YouTube video for.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Dash, anything you want to shout out besides Azula?
No, just her. She's my world. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a ton to shout out at the moment. Like I said, I'm working on some stuff behind the scenes. Unfortunately, it's just not in a place to be announced at the moment. But some exciting non-LCS stuff in the works, which will be cool. Otherwise, just kind of pumped to keep grinding on LCS and hopefully just keep making the product better for everybody. But otherwise, thanks for having me on the show. It was a blast, as always.
For me, everyone, I'd like to shout out Brandon Sanderson. His 4 secret books that he announced actually broke every Kickstarter record that there is, including the top highest Kickstarter of all time. No, if anybody wants to, they can go look at my my video that I put on the book channel. Everybody wants book channel videos. I finally uploaded the unboxing that I did. If folks did not see it on stream, I've got some cool interviews coming out this week, and also I am headed to Florida tomorrow for Full Sail's Hall of Fame week. So if you are there, let me know. I've never been to Winter Park, I think is the name of where I am headed. It's outside of Orlando. Yes. So if you know anything about Winter Park or you have any recommendations, please let me know. Anyway, that's the show. We'll catch you all next week. Thanks for watching. Oh, wait. Also, next week, Steve's going to be on from Team Liquid.
Steve?
Oh, he's a lot cooler than I am. So
Mark's former boss. Anyway, thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next week.